Hello and welcome to Ansakari. A very warm welcome to all of you who are watching this video. And I hope that you've gone through the previous sessions, and this is going to be our last session on discussion of previous year questions. So let us start. And In the last video, we had discussed till Unit 6.3, and now we are going ahead. So we have covered till Indian villages and the problems, uh, you know. So now we'll start with the next unit, 7.1. So the next unit is on problems and exploitations and deprivation. Problems of exploitation and deprivation of SC, ST. See, in the previous unit we have done of similar problems from a tribal perspective. Now we are doing for backward classes, SC, ST, OBCs, and the constitutional safeguards. Constitutional safeguard in any way, study for your polity also for Jews to look at the question. What are the constitutional safeguards to protect the interest of Indian tribes? So here this question may be wrongly mentioned here, but you get an idea. Okay, so if for with respect to tribes also, with respect to other backward communities, this is a direct question. And again, this question is direct. Why? Because in GS paper 2, for your polity, for your prelims, also you'll be preparing these areas. So constitution safeguard. Next is what has been the impact of non-Hindu religions on emancipation of scheduled castes in India. Non-Hindu religions. So other religions, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, Christianity, on emancipation of scheduled castes. Okay, 15. This is a 15 marker. This was in 2019. Next, OBCs among non-Hindu communities. So you have to write a brief about who are OBCs, what is their population. You have that fact obviously. Discuss the constitutional safeguard for scheduled castes. Direct question. Short note on OBCs again. A direct question on OBCs. Critical appraisal of any one tribal development program during the 12th five-year plan. This is in 2017. Suggestion for any improvement in the programs also. So you must know the shortcomings as well. What did not get achieved in the 12th five-year plan. Detailed provisions providing for Constitution of India for scheduled tribes under 5 and 6 schedule. That means 5th and 6th schedule. You have to write a brief detail about that. Okay. This question can be corresponded to other areas of your syllabus, not from anthro. Examine the factors responsible for exploitation of scheduled castes in India. Okay, you see the questions. These are all there's nothing out of syllabus that anyone would say. These are all directly related to these areas only. Because when you study SC, ST, OBC, you will be looking at their constitutional safeguards, also their current problems, government programs and policies, any such case studies also on any exploitation or emancipation or empowerment directly or indirectly. Let's say, for example, through representation, in the political system or in bureaucracy, right, reservation system, and all those areas. Next unit is on social change and contemporary tribal societies. Okay, so you see subunits impact of the modern democratic institutions, development programs and welfare measures on tribals and weaker sections. Look at the question. Critically assess the existing plans and programs meant for tribal welfare. So you have to do a critical evaluation. So you must know, government policies, some pilot projects that are being used, uh, any such studies that are being conducted for empowering tribals and their culture, protection of their culture also. Identify some special. You can even mention, vaccination drives, education drives, awareness drives. All of these things are meant for tribal welfare. Some special programs for PVTGs. So special with respect to particularly for PVTG only. Nature of social change in tribal India under the impact of developmental programs. So what have been the social changes? Affirmative action. It says critically compare the affirmative action of US and protective discrimination for scheduled tribes in India. So this is a 2015 question. Affirmative action with respect to US would have been some kind of a news item at that point of time during that period, and they are relating it to the protective discrimination of scheduled tribes in India. Tribes as indigenous cultures. How have modern democratic institutions influenced the Indian tribal societies? So, from all aspects, you have to assess it. Okay. Panchayati Raj you'll find here also. Panchayati Raj you'll find here also. Panchayati Raj is directly or indirectly linked to almost all the units. Next is on the concept of ethnicity. So ethical conflicts, unrest among tribals, regionalism, demand for autonomy, pseudo tribalism, social change, post independent India, all of these areas. Look at the questions. The various factors resulting in tribal unrest in different parts of India. So you can, refer to some tribal unrest, when it started, how it started, what were the reasons, and then compare it with the present tribal unrest, any such movements you would obviously know. Explain the colonial administrator view about the Indian villages and how they can be considered as little republics. Okay, you can give even reference to Chola administration also here. Write short note on ethnicity and regionalism. So, what is ethnicity, what is regionalism, how is it different? Tribes as a colonial construct. This is a 10 marker, so about 150 words. Short note on role of regionalism and what it plays in demand for autonomy among Indian tribes. Okay. Rights over uses and tribal unrest. Rights over resources, I'm sorry. So resources you would know. Let's say the MFP got bamboo. Right. The right over resources has been uh, an idea that is for tribals at least for it has been talked for a long period of time. And tribal unrest. Is there a relationship between both of them? Right. Next, see, we did about impact of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam on tribal on from a different perspective. Here it is asking or describing from tribal perspective. So direct question: impact of Buddhism on tribal population, Christianity, Islam, Islam and matrilineity. Does it have any significance, particularly in tribal culture? Impact of Hinduism on tribal women. Again, so direct questions. Impact of Hindu society on tribal population. Again, Christianity. So you wouldn't find any out of the box or different kind of a question which you have to decipher first and then write the answer, thinking that what I have made sense of is right or not. And there is considerate amount of repetition also. Next unit is on tribe and nation. So, a comparative study of the tribal communities in India. So, you will obviously have to do study the different tribes, their everything about different tribal communities and other countries also. So, now the question is it says discuss the appropriate examples of how tribal unrest may be understood as emerging out of incompatibility between tribes and a nation state. Okay. Distinctive cultural features of tribes of the Andamans. So maybe you can write about Jorways or Ongays. Okay. They are distinct. What kind of cultural features do they have? Critically evaluate the term tribe as compared to indigenous in some other countries. So somewhere it says indigenous communities, somewhere it says tribes. Critically examine relationship between tribal communities and the nation state on issues of governance. Okay. I hope that you What you should do also is that side by side, if you find some question, some term which is familiar, you can write that term down. You can make a note, or just write on what all relevant points you remember for it. Just brainstorm. Nation state, terms like nation building. Discuss the anthropological understanding of rising ethnicity among Indian tribes in context of nation building. So you obviously uh, do a pure complete analysis, both from both point of views, positive and negative. So there's question of tribal nation states in Africa. So how is it different, right? Next is on the history of administration of tribal areas. So tribal policies and plans. So this is particularly a current affairs, you can say, or government specific, wherein you study totally about the government policies and plans, even the previous policies, what were their impacts, the current policy. We've discussed about all this, right? The concept of PVTGs, distribution, special programs, role of NGOs, and directly the question is critical. Discuss the role of NGOs in tribal development. Then on PISA Act, features of PISA Act, compare the features of sixth schedule, short note on PVTGs, emergent salient features and limitations of tribal subplan, again a role of NGOs and missionaries and transformation of the STs in the particularly in central India. So regions of MP, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, even parts of Odisha, because these tribes are all distributed even in north of Maharashtra, let's say the Satara region. All of those, that is a part of central India only. I mean, that all those tribes will be considered a part of central India. Relevance of tribal Panchsheel, again a part of question on NGOs, role of NGOs, history of administration in colonial period, national tribal policy. You can even take these terms down. You can study about them separately. What is a tribal policy, national tribal policy? What is tribal Panchsheel? What is the PISA Act? Schedule 6, obviously. Okay. Role of anthropology in rural and tribal development. Okay. It says examine the strength and weakness of anthropology in context of its role in tribal and rural development. So you know once you see once you study the whole subject, there will be parts of this which you will not even be needing to study separately. Okay, because what is the role of anthropology? How this whole concept of tribal development, or for that matter rural development, this arose out because of anthropology only, because of the studies conducted, because of the awareness that was created out of anthropological studies. Role of anthropology in understanding the loss of livelihood of tribal communities due to economic and ecological factors. How anthropological knowledge and methods are useful in rural development. Write about contribution made by Christoph von Fuller on to tribal anthropology in India. Okay, so you can write down this name also. You can do a separate study of this. Role of anthropology in planning for tribal development. Okay, I've taken recent questions, not older ones, because they will help you understand the pattern. And now the last unit, which is contribution to understanding, which is of anthropology, understand regionalism, communalism, ethnic and political movements. Okay, so it says anthropological understanding of communalism, ethnicity and regionalism. We discussed these terms in previous units also. Anthropological interpretation of ethnic and political movements. Critical examination of concept of communalism, relevance for multi-religious, multi-ethnic polity. These you can note down even these key terms. Factors contributing towards communalism. Communalism, as such, has been a topic of debate, at least for the past 4 or 5 years, right? So, particular with respect to anthropology, the contribution of anthropology um in the understanding of these regions, these areas, right? So, I hope that now that we have covered the syllabus as well as the previous year questions, you are in a very good position to understand would this subject be the best approach for you. Do you fit yourself into this subject? Do you understand these key terms? Do you find them, in relevance with your thinking? And do you feel that you can benefit when you study this as an optional, right? Because to all my students, whenever I, discuss about this subject, the first thing is that you do not have to become an anthropologist to clear the examination with this optional. You have to study it from that point of view. Remember, in the first session we discussed about that UPSC notification, and particularly with respect to optional and main. So you have to study it from that perspective. So you should be able to now take that decision that okay, this I will be choosing anthropology as a subject, or I know this is not a subject for me. I want to go into my own field or whatever. But yes, that decision is purely up to you. But what these sessions were meant for were to provide you an understanding of that. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that these videos have been useful for you, and do like and subscribe. And now we'll be coming up with sessions on understanding of each and every unit. So we'll talk about the key terms. We'll give you what you need to study, how you need to study as well, and we'll discuss these areas in the syllabus as well. So thank you so much for your time, and do put in your comments whatever you have, any suggestions in the comment box, so that we keep on bringing useful content for you. Thank you so much for your time.